Hey, Megan, welcome to the show. Give us a little background on yourself.
Thank you. Excited to be here. My name is Megan Sewell. I reside in Plant City, Florida. So we are the strawberry capital of the world. I'm currently, in case you didn't know, it's our fun fact. I'm currently a senior sales consultant with TriNet. TriNet is a professional employer organization. For more details on what that is, you can just reach out to me. And fun fact about me, I am an avid CrossFitter and I have an African spur tortoise as a pet.
Yeah, me too. Where'd you get the tortoise? Africa?
No, not in Africa. No.
No.
We had a friend that collects reptiles, and a woman was moving to Wisconsin, and she needed to get rid of her tortoise, and he already had one, and they can't be together. So
Help me, because I walk by a CrossFit gym at least once a day.
yeah.
Walk by. And it's majority women.
Really?
Yeah. And it's not only women, but it's majority women.
What time of day?
It's usually early.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say around 7, 8.
Okay. Yeah. I would say it's pretty diverse. Maybe if you went at 5:30 in the evening, that would be majority males. And it may just be the gym itself that's the majority of their members.
But I mean, they're not counting things and throwing things. They're lifting things.
Yes.
Heavy things.
Yes.
And I'm like, why? I get the Pilates, the spin, the Soul Cycle, but CrossFit for women, it's just, what's the draw?
Yeah, for me, so I exercise at 5:30 every morning, and I've been doing CrossFit for about 6 years.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the growth and the challenge. And if I start my day with that level of tenacity, it's carrying over pretty quickly.
And I guess one of the things is it gets you out of a pattern, right? It's very diverse.
Yeah, so the focus is constantly varied movement. So it's interesting. I've been doing this 5 years, and I did a new exercise. I did a new combination Saturday, and my legs still hurt today. So
yeah, cool. So how'd you get into sales?
I don't know.
You just woke up one day and you were there. Here's your quota.
It feels like that. It feels like that. Yeah. So no, I joke with people that during graduate school, if you would have told me I would be good at sales, I would have laughed in your face and maybe cursed you out. But what happened is I was recruiting, and I was outperforming everyone around me, and I wasn't in a format that was incentivizing that. I wasn't working with an organization that was incentivizing that. So I asked for a sales job within this organization, and was told there wasn't one available. And it just motivated me. And that evening I had a conversation with somebody from college, and they were working for TriNet. And I was stating my piece, if you will, about the challenge of HR, the challenge of small business owners navigating HR and employees, and feeling like employees didn't really know what it meant to be an employee. We could call it a rant. And that landed me an interview at TriNet, and the rest is history.
And were you doing outbound recruiting or inbound recruiting?
So I was a sourcer, so there was no inbound recruiting at all.
Okay, so it's outbound.
And comically enough, I'll tell you, my first role to recruit was an outside payroll consultant. And I hated it. An outside sales payroll consultant, and I hated it. Which is hilarious because I touch on payroll these days.
No, that's what you're doing, isn't it?
It's a portion of what we do. It is a portion of what we do. But
so it was the variable income that was the big draw?
No, this is a very good question that no one's ever asked me, so I deeply appreciate it. Certainly I've always been I had a mentor that said, if you're not making me money as an employee, then I'm losing money on you. You're costing me money. And I've always been wired to get the job done. I know what an employee costs, if you will. I understand that it's an investment. so that was part of it, is I knew that, hang on, you're going to pay me more money to just actually do my job. Yes, I'm interested in that. And then the other variable was just the opportunity to learn more about small and mid-sized businesses, to learn more about entrepreneurs and CEOs, and to get in their heart and mind. And then to be able to talk about their employees, and all of that just came naturally for me to be selling TriNet.
So, I mean, you went on for a master's degree, which tells me that you value education and you like learning.
Indeed.
Yeah. And you're clearly curious about how their business runs,
Understatement.
your
Yeah,
customer.
exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll tell you, sometimes it's more challenging for me not to just get intimately curious of the ins and outs of their business and revenue generation, and focus, okay, the employee side of it, because that's one section of their business, as we know.
Yeah. And what's the hardest part of the job other than all of it?
Of sales in general, or of my job
Well,
specifically?
I mean, you're selling to a tough persona.
Okay, so I'm selling to a very tough persona because I sell specifically to blue and gray collar businesses. And I'm selling a conceptual model to them, that is very near and dear to their heart. So the most challenging part is building trust with them, while still trying to maintain that I'm on the same side of the table as them. So challenging them, but coming alongside them, if you will.
And what's your style? Is it that curiosity, that interest in them and how things are currently working?
It's curiosity, and it's also leading with empathy. So, fun fact about me, my dad is a farmer. I'm originally from Indiana, so he was a business owner. I'm married to a business owner that he is a mechanic. So I kind of live in that world. So I think it's a combination of really having that level of curiosity, but leading that conversation with empathy and knowing what a day in their life is like.
And is this something that you didn't see other people at TriNet doing?
I think in sales, it can be really challenging to be present in conversation. And I think particularly in B2B sales, we tend to think about or get excited when we get a business, instead of just thinking this is another human being that has made the decision to start a business, if you will.
Yeah.
And we're here to help them about what we know best that they might not be aware of.
And is this something you organically developed or were you taught this?
That's a good question that I wish I had an answer to. I would say my husband calls me the interrogator. So in my natural life, if
Yeah.
I'm to meet you and sit next to you, I'm going to want to know your life story in 5 minutes. But I will read your body language. So part of that is my degree in communication, that natural curiosity. The sales side of it, I would say I'm constantly learning. I'm still evolving in terms of how I approach those conversations.
So it sounds like it's organic.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Uh,
Because most companies don't teach that or don't even know it exists.
I think it'd be pretty challenging to teach. I would say
is,
that
yeah.
the challenger in me, the side that likes to challenge people and ask difficult questions. And my husband really says I'm an interrogator because I will ask people questions that he thinks are just, why are you asking them this question? That's pretty personal, or whatever it might be. But it's because I like to get to know someone pretty quickly.
Yeah. And do you find most people appreciate that, obviously, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
In my personal and professional life. I think people are missing it, quite frankly.
right. Because guess what everybody else does? Talks about themselves.
Or the weather, or the whatever.
Yeah.
And
And
anything else, if you will.
right. And why do people go to therapists?
So they can talk about themselves. And someone will listen to
Someone
them.
will pay to.
And I'll tell you, here's what's interesting to me is I started my career at TriNet cold calling. And so that's my level, cold calling, knowing how to warm them up to transition to an initial conversation. And listening is the most beautiful thing in those dials.
And and people think it's listening to hear, and then people say it's active listening, but it's what the other person wants is listening to understand.
Comprehension.
Do you understand me? Do you get me? And that's why people go to a therapist, because
Yes,
no one's getting them. No one's understanding them.
it's true.
And they always leave 100 pounds lighter emotionally, because
Yeah.
for the first time in maybe years, someone got them, because they had to be paid to get them.
Yes.
And when somebody feels like you get them, they're an open book.
It's quite amazing.
And because most people talk about the product or themselves or the company, or they might talk about the other person's company, which is more interesting to them than your company.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely.
But
And I think,
nothing is more important than them.
or their company, and these business owners, and I can say this because I live with one who's owned one for 12 years, whether they like it or not, and not all days do they like it, it's their livelihood. It is their baby, for lack of better words, and it consumes them.
It is, because although it's not as important as a child, they spend more time on it than their child.
Exactly.
And it becomes part of their identity.
Exactly.
So when it succeeds, they succeed. When it fails, they feel failure.
Mm-hmm.
And they sense
And
that,
oh yeah.
because, if you've ever been a manager or an owner, when an employee's got your back or not. It's not hard to tell. As a manager, you don't care as much, but it's not your money.
Right.
It's your career,
Right.
but it's not your money.
Right.
And I think once you're able to get on the same side as your client, that's where trust is. And trust being the bandwidth of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is the 5G of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us are still at modem level of communication, right? We're at 1G.
Yeah, and we know those conversations that we have, that we're not on rotary phones anymore, people.
Right. And that's it, because both people are playing, and the protocol is tell me what I want to hear. I'll tell you what you want to hear. And neither of us believe it. And we're just hoping that the other person's going to do what they say.
That is I'll tell you, early in my career, one of the things I struggled with was, I am a sales consultant. I am because there's that preconceived notion. And we all know at some point or another, we've been sold something that was not what we purchased.
Yeah. And my line used to be, I'm not that good at sales to convince you to do something you don't want to do. So
I love that.
So let's pretend we're both on your side.
I love that. That's one of my favorite. So part of what TriNet does is you would outsource payroll to us, and I'm dealing with blue and gray collar business owners. So they've never outsourced payroll, and they never would. And I would ask them 15 different questions as to why, to really explain to me why. And at the end of it, I would say, you know what? I'm not a preacher. I'm not here to change your belief systems.
Yeah.
Because it just is.
And you're smart enough to do that, and they appreciate you being that upfront about it.
Exactly.
And you made President's Club 3 years in a row. That's not easy to do. I'm sure they made it easier every year for you to do that. Is that how it works?
No. No, definitely not. I think actually all it is execution and discipline. It's not complicated. It's not fancy. It's work.
And where does that come from? Because yeah, I worked on a farm. I know what my mom grew up on a farm. I know what farming is like. It's
Yeah. So part of it's work ethic.
a
You know,
little.
my dad went out and rain, shine, wind. It had to get done.
Yeah.
I also was in 4-H, so I had pigs and cattle that I needed to take care of. So it was all of that. And then part of it is just trusting those that were successful before me and what they did.
Yeah.
Trusting the process.
And it also sets you up to be a good team player because, farms are an ecosystem,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
supply chain. And it's not based on contracts. It's based on trust, relationships.
Well, and I would say sports and CrossFit have also created that. CrossFit, you don't walk in the first day and you can do these fancy gymnastics things, you can lift all this weight. It takes time and discipline and dedication to the process.
Right. And you might feel better right after it.
Yes.
Not the morning after it.
Or during it.
Yeah.
About halfway through, you're wondering why you even signed up to be here.
Oh, what sport did you play?
So I'm a better athlete now in my later years than I was in high school. I just like being part of a team and working really hard for whatever reason in high school. So in high school, I played volleyball, I did track, and I was a cheerleader. And then my junior year of college, I ran 1 year of cross country just because I was a runner and a couple of people noticed me and snagged me up. And again, I was better at practice than I was at competing for whatever reason. But those were kind of the sports that I was involved in.
And are you a competitive person?
Yes. So competitive that as we talk about CrossFit, my husband, I do CrossFit at 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning. He does it at 5:30 in the evening. And there are some people in this community that say, oh, I don't want to come to CrossFit because I'll have to compete with you. But everybody that's part of our gym says, no, the only person that competes with Megan is Reed, her husband. And the only person that competes with Reed is Megan, his wife. And so we're both very competitive by nature.
But one's a morning and one's an evening person? Or is that?
We're both morning people, but he's got to get up and yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've created this habit and he knows better.
Yeah. And what motivates you at work? Is it being number one? Is it making club? What is it?
So I what motivates me at work now is really developing more strategic communication about how I get to the people, because I know my market pretty well now. So I know the ones that I should get to that still need to have a conversation with me. I know when to move on, and I know who to talk to about, is this even worth me pursuing, if you will. Yeah. So at this point, what motivates me is to make an impact in the greater Tampa Bay area, whatever that looks like. And what motivates me within TriNet is just to continue to be that team member, to still, I still make the dials. I'm doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. I'm just refining how I go about it in a much different way. And so that's what motivates me right now.
And how do you get over like the traditional call reluctance? And
I've never had call reluctance. Like the hardest part is the first 3 dials. And then once I'm in, I'm in. Yeah. So I'm not the best person to ask about that. I think what I will tell you is I reached a point last year, maybe the year before, that I created this belief system that there is somebody that just went through something really challenging that I can help or solve. And there's somebody that's actually looking at products or services related to what TriNet's offering. And that, as odd as this may sound, I'm actually doing a disservice to those business owners by not making an attempt to reach them.
Yeah. That's good, because that mindset, because what you're doing is getting emotionally attached to their interest to take action.
And I know, because I've had conversations with some of them that have gone through some really painful things, that if the timing were right and I just happened to call and leave a voicemail, there might be something that I say there that gets them to a level of openness.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I've learned, it's I can't impose a pain upon a business owner they haven't experienced.
And they've experienced it. They just don't want to feel it or remember it
Mm-hmm.
or address it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And where do you want to take your career?
I'll always be selling. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm I coach CrossFit too. I'm a founding member, so I'm consistently recruiting for the gym, and being an advocate there. My husband's a small business. We can't find a space in our community that suits his growth plans enough. So I'm thinking, how do I pitch an investor and then tell him I'll find tenants to complement? Um, but I really love consulting small and mid-sized businesses, and I really love the blue and gray collar space, the manufacturing, the skilled trades. And the reason being is because they are maybe one of the most challenging to connect with and do B2B sales. One, I love that challenge. It's exciting for me. But two, I think they also have the greatest need for someone who can empathize, who can be a business partner, who can say, how can I help you? Truly help. So I don't know what that means, but I know that these sectors and these industries really have a calling to my heart, if you will.
Yeah. And you would rather do that than something that's more lucrative?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
And I think there's lucrative opportunities within that. Because there's so much technology, there's so much evolution, there's so many different ways these businesses are operating. Um, because I work in the realm of health benefits and insurance and payroll, I can tell you I will never be an independent insurance agent. It's nothing I have one iota of interest in.
Right. But there's enterprise and mid-market and
Yeah, so definitely enterprise and mid-market. Like there will be more of that in my career because it's when I say small business, the individuals, and I won't use revenue for us, it's with 20 employees or less, or just at a different place of where I'm able to have impact. So my level of questions, my level of support and help really comes to have an impact when you're 100 plus, particularly when we're talking about your labor force and how you analyze your workforce and how you create structure and how you create accountability, if you will. That's really where I excel, is the 100 plus space.
and how do you develop yourself as a salesperson?
Listening to your podcast.
That is the perfect answer.
I think I just
Very
I
smart
want
young
to
lady.
learn. I want to learn all the time, and so when we talk about sales, I had mentioned to you, and I'm just getting better at this, is I realize if I can sell TriNet, what else can I sell? And how else can I use this for the better of my community, for the better of those that are near and dear to me, for the greater good, not to sound altruistic, but where can I apply my skills now that and applying those skills and refining them and doing it in different avenues is just going to help me be better in my role at TriNet.
Yeah, because I mean, you've gotten over kind of that hard part, that call reluctance, and then you've developed the outward mindset, which is also very unique. Very
Mm-hmm.
few people. That usually takes the whole career, if ever. I've seen people 40 years into it still haven't got it. They stick with cliches and they don't come up with questions and get in the other person's head.
Do you think that's inherent, or do you think it is learned?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it can be learned, but it's hard, right? Because we come out of the womb, we're little creatures trying to survive. And at some point, either we become curious because we're secure enough,
Right,
and wherever our interests take us.
right.
Um, but you have to be first aware of it, and then try and develop it. Because what if all our impulses, all our triggers are all about comfort, survival,
Mhm.
immediate satisfaction?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how many times you wake up at 5 in the morning and your first thought is, this pillow is so uncomfortable, I got to go lift weights, right?
Never.
Right. I've been a long distance runner my whole life. It's like you have to trick yourself into getting out of bed in the winter, in the dark, to
Yes.
go outside
Yes.
with an hour of running ahead of you,
Yes.
right?
I long, both CrossFit and long distance running, you have to create unsurmountable levels of discipline.
Right. And little mind games, and
Mhm.
everyone does it a little different. You have to create an identity, a standard, whatever it is that works for you, and repeat it enough so that it becomes harder not to do it than to do it.
It's interesting because I've what I've realized since March, because I'm confined to my home. It's very easy to find distractions. And there's a lot of complexities to my role. I I easily get in flow if I'm making consistent dials.
Yeah.
Flow state being when we're in athletics, we get into flow state. So
Yeah.
I find this, if I block a good amount of time and I make a lot, I get into a flow state.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Do you use music? Do you picture something? Do you stand up? Do you get
Nope. I literally, when I leave a voicemail or when I have a conversation, I hang up and I just do one more, just do one more, just do.
do you
So
put the
it's,
receiver down, or do you just hit the button to hang up? And
so we can dial through our computers.
yeah.
So I'll take a short note and then I'll just go straight to the next one. Um,
Do you have a
and just having that
Do you have
momentum.
anything that motivates you in your office? A picture of something, your tortoise, your
So it's interesting because at my desk at work, it's like it's very representative of my personality. It's got my family, it's got my spouse, it's got all of my hobbies. So in reality, even though I've been working from home, I still feel all of that around me because
yeah,
I had it for so long. Um, so right now, the only thing at my desk is my kill list. My only visual is like these 10 companies that I have to get in front of relentlessly. And I would say even those aren't pictures, that goes back to my mindset that even though I can see those, they're more just like that.
yeah. And how do you recover when you screw up? Either you lose a deal, or you sleep in, or you
I would say I'm still working on that.
uh,
Um, because of the learning and growing, I would say I will hang up from a conversation, an hour-long meeting, and I will think, well, I could have said these 10 things different. And I'll get on a call with a director, another sales consultant. It's like, man, you killed that. It went great. So I would say I'm still fighting to be not so critical of those. But how I bounce back is taking time to myself. Um, I'm a pretty extroverted individual, but I need time alone to process things. And
and
so when something happens, I really take some good self-reflection time.
and is that sitting down with a pad of paper, reading a book, zoning out, going for a
Zoning
walk,
out,
zoning out?
zoning out. I would say CrossFit helps with that level of sanity, if you will. Use sleeping in because I work out at 5:30. My body feels that I didn't jumpstart it like that. So working from home, it's really tough for me not to go to my computer and then not leave my computer until 6:30 sometimes. So I really have to have the discipline to get up and move and go out and see the dog and see the tortoise and do whatever that might be.
See the tortoise, your
It's a real
comfort
story.
tortoise.
I'll send you a great picture.
Would you?
He's a character.
How big is the tortoise?
Oh, he's about 100 pounds.
Is that all?
Yeah, we're not moving him anywhere. He eats a
Now,
whole head of cabbage. That's
100
most of his
pounds. So he's
diet.
not in a tank or anything.
No, he's actually, we have a small shed in the back of our house and he's created a whole habitat
Yeah.
that he stays underneath.
And you feed the bad neighborhood kids to him, or yeah.
No. No, the neighborhood kids gather around the fence though to see if they can see him during the day.
And is he done growing?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, he's gonna be a good size.
Yeah. And they live quite a while too, don't they?
Yeah, they'll outlive us for sure.
You have a life insurance policy for you?
No. That's hilarious.
Cool. Hey, it's been a fun conversation, Megan. Where can people go to connect with you?
So I am an open book in all regards. You're going to see the same personality. You'll get a little bit more of my personality on Facebook and Instagram. But the best place to start is on LinkedIn. Megan Burkett Sewell or Megan Sewell, TriNet. Just reach out to me. I'm always happy to have conversations about what I do and really how I can be a resource.